In 100 years, nobody will remember the court documents, the labour strikes, the leaked text messages, the pissing in bottles. They'll remember the movie. From the birth of a supervillain in The Apprentice to the deification of Michael Jackson, the biopic has stopped being a character study and started being a PR asset, for better or worse. But where does this end?
I want to be a vessel for love.
Today we're looking at how Hollywood is rewriting the past and why the ultimate corporate biopic is already closer than you think. Whether you're with us since the first broadcast on Channel 69 or you're just finding us today, everything we've uncovered and discussed on this channel so far has been leading to a single terrifying concept.
69, dudes!
Watching The Apprentice a few years back before the re-election of the orange one, I felt that I was watching something, a prequel almost, to a Marvel movie. It was like the birth of a supervillain. To see the formulation of Trump, the Trump that we see now, it struck me that The Apprentice showed that a biopic can still be gritty and transformative. It treats the subject as a character study rather than a monument, showing slow moral decay. And I know the film's not out yet, but contrast that with the trailer for the Michael Jackson biopic, focusing on the moonwalk or the thriller. The film isn't telling a story, it's recreating the brand in cinematic moments. We all know very well this film is not going to cover the nuts and bolts or the real gritty details or the allegations. It's going to be a sanitization. But think about it, 100 years from now, someone's going to discover the music of Michael Jackson, his lasting, defining legacy. And if they want to then know a little bit more, what's going to be out there? There's going to be the shiny, high-definition biopic, the gatekeeper of this story or legacy of Michael Jackson. Has the biopic evolved from a biographical study into a high-budget PR tool used to cement a specific legacy? In a century, primary sources, interviews, court documents, grainy news footage, documentary footage, real broadcast footage, it's going to fade into the background. The high-definition narrative will become the truth. And if a family or a state like the Jacksons control the rights and even have a member of it star in the film, the biopic becomes a piece of legacy insurance. That legacy laundering ensures the sanitized version is the one that survives in the cultural zeitgeist. Later on, I'm going to show you what happens when the subject of the movie also owns the studio making it. But firstly, let's take a look at why we're in this current position when it comes to biopics. I think you can trace a line or draw a line back to Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Even though it flopped, it successfully deconstructed the cliche.
Give him a minute, son. Dewey Cox needs to think about his entire life before he plays.
You know, you had the childhood trauma, the drug montage, the redemptive final concert. It was made after the Johnny Cash biopic Walk the Line came out, but it absolutely tore up the framework, the rulebook for how to make a biopic.
I done a bad thing, cut my brother in half.
But it flopped. And now we're seeing movies like Bohemian Rhapsody falling right back into the trap that Dewey Cox mocked. It's an absolute mess of a movie.
It's a movie.
Framed around this Rami Malek performance where he won the Oscar for portraying Freddie Mercury. But from a technical perspective, the film is a mess. The editing in it is almost a study in how to not edit a feature film. There's plenty of videos out there on YouTube diving into that specific thing. I don't want to get into it here. But one of the things that stands out is the film frames itself around the Live Aid concert, Freddie's greatest performance. And, well, Rami does an admirable job of getting the nuances, the vocal performance down. That footage exists from the Live Aid broadcast that is readily available on YouTube. And why watch a recreation with some dodgy CGI instead of watching the real performance, the real power behind it? Biopics building towards a moment. I really found the counter to that last year in the Deliver Me From Nowhere, the Springsteen film that came out, the biopic, and how Bohemian Rhapsody built towards the stadium anthem. It built towards the massive moment. Throughout it, you had those little nostalgia moments. Hey, I've got an idea about how to do a drum beat, and we'll do We Will Rock You.
Wow.
Almost just giving the audience that tick box exercise that the Michael Jackson biopic is clearly going to do. That's what I love so much about Deliver Me From Nowhere. It subverted your expectations. It opened with the concert footage of Bruce performing Born to Run at the end of his previous tour, and that just was there to reinforce that, no, don't worry, Jeremy Allen White has got this. He can do the live performances, but we're not going to be doing that because that's not what this film is about. And ultimately it becomes a film about mental health, psychological struggles, and even though it's got throughout the film that, crowd-pleasing moment where you see the recording of Born in the USA, it's an absolutely fundamental part of the story. It's not just there for that tick box nostalgia baiting exercise.
Born down in a dead man's town.
Bruce is in such a dark place, and he's working through his trauma via the album Nebraska. And while the studio's expecting the follow-up and the big hits, and they see these big hits, he's like, yeah, we've got that, we've done it, but that's not what I want to do right now. I need to focus on this. It's a very brave movie. It gives you those moments, but it's not the Bruce Springsteen, hey, then I went on tour and did this and that. It's a very dark look at a troubling period of his life. And then counter that back to Bohemian Rhapsody. Biopic isn't about truth. It's about catharsis without complexity. So 2 examples to hold up there. The Apprentice, the Trump biopic, a rare example of the gritty lens, treating the subject as a character study of moral decay, cinematic, dark and unflinching, and then Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, avoiding the greatest hits trap and focus on mental health, and gives you the opportunity to see a famous story by choosing specifics over spectacle. So that's 2 ends of the spectrum. Maybe there's something in the middle ground we can look to. Rocketman, the Elton John biopic, is a good example. Now, you could see this almost as like the anti-Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, Bohemian Rhapsody sanitised Freddie Mercury and all of the shenanigans that he got up to, so it was a PG-13 in the States. Elton John fought hard for an R rating, so he could show the warts and all. Doesn't shy away from his drug addiction, his suicide attempt, the fact he could be an arsehole to people around him. Even includes a sex scene, which is something Bohemian Rhapsody famously avoided. Because it's a musical fantasy, it uses surrealism to soften the blow. Elton John frequently launches into dance numbers, like when he's overdosing, so the spectacle distracts from the tragedy. It's honest about the events, but it frames them through a rainbow filter lens that makes his life feel like a high-budget theatre production rather than a gritty reality. And Elton was an executive producer. He chose what to show. Even though it's unflinching, it's still his truths. Meaning people he didn't like, maybe his early manager, they're framed as 2-dimensional villains to make him look more like a victim of circumstance. To say, hey, look how honest I am, but still owning the camera, the script, and the legacy. It's not a confession, it's a stylized apology, but it's designed to keep the brand intact. It's not just musical icons that have biopics produced about them. Think about sports stars that have biopics or documentaries put out about them. But biopics often ignore the game to manufacture a glory that didn't exist or to protect a brand. Thinking specifically here about if you take, arguably one of the greatest sports films of all time, Raging Bull. In this, Martin Scorsese didn't care about making Jake LaMotta likeable. Shows him as a domestic abuser, paranoid husband, and a man who self-destructs. The biopic is most powerful when it treats the athlete as a flawed human rather than a heroic icon. I, Tonya doesn't make Tonya Harding a hero, it shows her as a foul-mouthed, angry, and complicit in the events. Foxcatcher is the deconstruction of the philanthropist. It follows John DuPont, a billionaire who sponsors the US Olympic wrestling team, but it's a study of how extreme wealth creates a vacuum where no one can tell you no, leading to madness. In Moneyball, Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, isn't a winner. The movie starts with him failing as a player and ends with his team losing in the playoffs. But it's the product biopic done right. It's about the cold, hard maths of baseball. It doesn't give you the heroic home run ending because life doesn't always work that way. It values the process over the trophy. We can still legacy launder with sports biopics. King Richard, the Father of the Year. It's the most high-gloss modern sports biopic. It won Will Smith an Oscar, and that's all that happened to Will Smith that night.
I want to be a vessel for love.
Uh-oh, Richard! Oh, wow!
For love.
But it was produced by Venus and Serena Williams. The film frames Richard Williams as a misunderstood, eccentric, but ultimately saint with a vision who sacrificed everything for his daughters. It omits the fact that Richard had a previous wife and 5 children who he reportedly abandoned to start his tennis project. It ignores his history of erratic behaviour and legal battles because they're far less inspiring than the movie suggests. You could almost say the Williams sisters used the film as a way to rehabilitate their father's image for history, turning him from a complex man into a Disney dad. Ford versus Ferrari. It frames Ford as a scrappy American underdog fighting the elite snobby Ferrari. The reality was Ford was a global industrial titan with infinite resources compared to Ferrari's tiny struggling workshop. It makes the man look like a visionary hero, when in reality the win was a result of brute force spending and corporate ruthlessness. And while not a film, there's a docu-series out there which was massively popular when it came out and widely watched, and that was The Last Dance, Michael Jordan. Except Michael Jordan had final editorial approval. Consequently, the bad parts of his personality, the gambling, the bullying of his teammates, are framed as the price of greatness. It frames his retirement in 1993 as a break, rather than addressing persistent rumours of a shadow suspension due to gambling. It was a brand protection exercise, released during the pandemic to remind the world that Jordan is the GOAT. So yeah, there's a lot of biopics about people out there. But what if we started talking about biopics of products? Films where capitalism isn't just the setting, it's the hero's journey. Think about something like Air, the film about Michael Jordan's shoes. The film isn't about Michael Jordan, it's about Michael Jordan, the brand.
What's a Converse? NBA All-Star shoe.
But he's always out of frame. It's more about the parents, specifically the mother. And just like The Last Dance, Jordan had veto power. He insisted that his mother was the heart of the film.
It became personal with me.
It makes you think that's what a shoe brand can do. Imagine what the world's largest retailer could do with its own origin story. And there's more and more of these films coming out. There was that film Tetris, right? Where it framed Western capitalism as a world of colour and freedom versus the grey, soul-crushing Soviet Union. Literally a Cold War battle where the prize was this toy, this video game, Tetris. It's crazy to think how product is now the protagonist. I mean, there's one example, BlackBerry, I can think of recently, which showed more the dark side of the trend. How the geek character was eventually consumed by the shark, how the creative destruction of capitalism, product eventually becoming obsolete.
Calling it iPhone.
That's where we start to talk about endgame.
Here we go.
You've won the game of capitalism. You've acquired the most wealth in human history. You own the newspapers that record the present. You own the film studios that dream up the future. What's the next logical conclusion? Everything we've discussed here and in previous videos, the sanitized icons, the product heroes, the bleaching of a name, it all leads here. If you're Jeff Bezos, you don't just buy the world, you buy the story of how you got it. This isn't going to be a biopic when it happens. It's going to be a total narrative takeover, the ultimate act of legacy laundering. And it will be all sunshine and rainbows and the story of how he got to where he did from his parents' garage.
Stop it, Bungle. You know I'm ticklish.
Jeffrey, I think you're smiling, yeah? And now you're laughing, Jeffrey!
Did you know the name Jeffrey peaked in the 1960s in America for names for young boys? It kind of had a slow decline from that peak, but it really dropped into the uncool category at a point that aligns perfectly with the rise of the Amazon empire. In 1994, when Amazon was founded, Jeffrey was still a powerhouse name. It was number 55 in the US for boys, a standard, respectable boomer name. 5 years later, Bezos was Time of the Year. For the first time in 50 years, Jeffrey fell out of the top 100. And in the 2010s, the Amazon era, the global monopoly, Bezos became the world's richest man. The name was in freefall. 2020, it plummeted to 388. Today, it's about 520. Anyone called Jeffrey's watching, by the way. I love you. I appreciate you. Well, I suppose 2022 Netflix had that Jeffrey Dahmer series. So how are they going to frame it? Well, they're going to give you that garage myth, right? The scrappy startup, a man, a desk, his parents' garage. That's not the reality of the Jeffrey Bezos situation. Just take a quick second here. Bezos didn't just stumble into success. He was a senior vice president at D.E. Shaw, a massive Wall Street hedge fund. He didn't just have a vision, he had $250,000 investment from his parents, which is about $500k in today's money. So just like BlackBerry or Air, Bezos is going to frame himself as the underdog when he's actually the most well-funded or backed player in the room. What do you know about cellar boxing? No, I'm not talking about Fight Club. Cellar boxing, or the retail graveyard, it's the hidden financial villainy. It's a predatory trading tactic where a company's stock is driven down to like less than a penny through naked short selling and collusion with Wall Street sharks. Just know that it's Wall Street betting on the failure of other companies and profiting massively from that. So by Amazon becoming the behemoth that it did, they would know that they could then go and drive down companies like Toys R Us and Blockbuster and all these kind of things and make a ton of money off the back of that and get those companies into this aggressive cellar boxing short sale issue. So this allowed Amazon to not just win on service, they won by scorched earth financial warfare. In reality, Amazon operated famously at a loss for years, and that's how the story will be told. But it wasn't growing pains, it was a strategy. That Wall Street capital was used to subsidize low prices. Bezos could undercut those mum and pop stores that actually had to make a profit to survive. Did you know that refused to sell to Amazon? So Bezos dropped Amazon's diaper prices by 30%, losing $200 million in a month, just to bleed them dry until they were forced to sell to him. The retail graveyard is not just businesses closing, it's the loss of a third place, not home, not work, but community. If the local bookshop closes, town loses a piece of itself. Bezos didn't just kill them, like we say, he buried the giants that we grew up with. These company stocks getting hammered into the ground, and when it's worthless, they can't raise capital to pivot. Amazon swoops in, not to save them, but to pick over the carcass, the data, the real estate, the customers. You know, Bezos will probably frame this as the natural evolution of technology. The film's going to frame him as the tech guy fighting the money guys. No, he was the money guy. He knew exactly how to speak the language of the vulture capitalists who were shorting these retail companies. He didn't disrupt the market, he colluded with the forces that were already trying to destroy it. The Bezos biopic will show him delivering the world. It won't show you what he had to kill to make sure he was the only one left to deliver it. Human cost. The magic of the Amazon interface, the buy now button, contrasting with the mechanical, grueling reality of the human beings behind it. In a sanitized biopic, the workers would be associates, proud to be part of the future, but they're not. They're human hardware that is discarded when it wears out. So workers, especially delivery drivers and warehouse stores, carry pee bottles in their vans or hide them behind bins because the fear of being automatically fired by an algorithm is greater than the human need for dignity. But the movie's going to spin that, isn't it? You're going to get this high-tech dashboard and talk about efficiency, optimization. They really should be showing a yellow plastic bottle left in the back of a van. Management by maths. At Amazon, you could be fired without ever talking to a human being. The system tracks your rate. If you fall below the 5th percentile, the system automatically generates a termination notice. Because the pace is so high, Amazon warehouses have had injury rates double the industry average. It's not an accident, it's a design feature of the everything fast model. The film will show that Bezos is a hands-on leader. The truth is, he built a system so he never has to be a leader. He's just the architect of a meat grinder. So that film is going to show you Bezos being customer obsessed. Amazon is customer obsessed. The reality is the system he built is obsessed with something else, the elimination of the human element. He wants to serve humans, but he doesn't want to use humans. He wants workers. He wants biological robots who don't need brakes, don't need unions, and definitely don't need dignity. And then finally, space. Bezos likes to send people into orbit on his... And he's a lifelong Trekkie. He even has a cameo as an alien in Star Trek Beyond. His entire Blue Origin project is essentially him trying to live out a childhood fantasy. Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner, was sent up into orbit by Bezos. And he came back with something that's called the overview effect, a profound realization that Earth is a tiny, fragile speck of dust in a vast, cold graveyard. Upon landing, Shatner was crying, and he's there talking to Bezos. There's footage saying, what you've given me is the most profound experience. I'm so filled with emotion. And as he was putting this out there, having this spiritual epiphany about the vulnerability of life, Bezos literally turns his back on him, calls for a bottle of champagne and starts spraying over a group of laughing people.
I want one. I want to hear this. Here. You want a little of this? Okay.
Like it was a victory lane at NASCAR. Bezos didn't go to space to find God or save the planet. He went to space to have the ultimate champagne room experience. He didn't even listen to Captain Kirk because in Bezos' film, Bezos is captain. And it all comes down to money at the end of the day, not humanity. It's a pissing contest, right? Bezos spent years in legal battles with NASA and SpaceX suing because he didn't win certain lunar landing contracts. He literally delayed the return of humanity to the moon because his ego couldn't handle losing a contract for a man claiming to be saving humanity. He's remarkably good at slowing down progress when he's not getting the credit. He's not going to space to save us. He's going to space to get away from the world he helped break. Channel 69 proudly presents...
So I wanted to project myself forward to age 80 and say, okay, now I'm looking back on my life. I want to have minimized the number of regrets I have.
It's a perfectly good car.
This is the most important work I'm doing. It's a simple argument. This is the best planet. Or we can fix that problem by moving out into space.
Every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer, you guys paid for all of this.
And take care of yourself and each other. Good night.
Good night.
Would you like to know more?